The man in the expensive suit stopped right in front of the homeless bench and stared at me like he had just seen a ghost. For a long moment, he didn't say anything. His eyes moved slowly across my face, studying every wrinkle, every line, every sign of the life that had beaten me down. I tightened my grip around the paper cup in my hands, expecting the usual words. "Move along. You can't sit here. People like you aren't allowed in this area." I had heard those sentences more times than I could count. But instead, the man opened a black leather folder, looked at a photograph inside it, then looked back at me again. His voice was low, almost disbelieving. "Impossible," he whispered. Then he stepped closer. So close that I could see my reflection in the shine of his polished shoes. And that's when he asked the question that would change my life forever. "Are you Damien?" At that moment, I had no idea that this strange question would uncover a secret hidden for decades. A secret worth $47 million. But the truth behind that money would hurt far more than the poverty I was living in. Welcome to my YouTube channel Whisper Stories, where silence speaks. My name is Addison, and I am 63 years old. At 63, a man believes he has already seen every possible ending life can write for him. You think you understand loss. You think you understand humiliation. You think you understand what it feels like when the world quietly closes its doors one by one. But you would be wrong. Because nothing in my life, not the divorce, not the nights sleeping on cold pavement, not the way strangers looked through me like I didn't exist, prepared me for the moment a man in an expensive suit walked up to a homeless bench and asked a question that would change everything. He looked straight into my tired eyes and said, "Are you Damien?" And that single question would lead to $47 million, a truth hidden for decades, and the most painful lesson about family I would ever learn. But to understand that moment, you have to understand how a man like me ended up sleeping on a park bench in the first place. 10 months earlier, my life had already fallen apart. My divorce was not loud or dramatic. There were no screaming matches, no broken plates, no dramatic courtroom moments like the movies show. It was quieter than that. Much quieter. After 35 years of marriage, my wife simply looked at me across the kitchen table one evening and said, "I can't do this anymore." Just like that. No explanation that made sense, no real fight, just exhaustion in her eyes. And the truth is, I was exhausted too. Years of working long hours as a warehouse supervisor had slowly worn us both down. The house had become silent. The laughter we once shared had disappeared somewhere between bills, responsibilities, and the slow erosion of affection. When the divorce papers came, I didn't fight them. Maybe I should have. But at 63, you sometimes mistake surrender for peace. The court divided everything. The house went to her. Most of the savings disappeared into legal fees and settlements. What little remained went quickly toward rent and basic survival. I thought I could start over. But starting over is harder than people think when your hair is grey, and employers prefer younger backs and faster hands. One by one, job applications were rejected. "You're overqualified. We'll call you. You're not the right fit." Those sentences sound polite, but what they really mean is simple. "You're too old." Within 6 months, my small apartment was gone. The landlord was kind about it, but kindness doesn't stop eviction. And that is how I ended up sleeping in a park in the city. If you have never been homeless, there is something you should understand. It isn't just about losing a house. It's about losing visibility. People stop seeing you. They walk past you with their eyes carefully pointed somewhere else, not out of cruelty necessarily, but because looking at someone who has fallen that far makes people uncomfortable. It reminds them that life can collapse faster than they want to believe. My nights were cold. My back ached from the wooden bench. Sometimes I wrapped myself in old newspapers for warmth. Food came from soup kitchens, or whatever small change strangers dropped into the coffee cup I kept beside me. The hardest part wasn't the hunger. It wasn't the cold. It was the silence. When you're homeless, days blur together. You become invisible even to yourself. I began to wonder if this was how the rest of my life would end, quietly fadding away in a park where no one knew my name. And then one morning, everything changed. It was a cloudy Tuesday. I remember because the sky looked the exact shade of grey my life felt. I had just finished the free breakfast served by a church down the street, a small bowl of oatmeal and a slice of toast. To me, it felt like a feast. I returned to my usual bench and sat there watching pigeons fight over crumbs. That's when a black sedan pulled up along the curb. Cars like that never stopped near the park benches where people like me sat. Usually they passed quickly, windows tinted, lives protected from the unpleasant sights outside. But this one stopped. The door opened. A man stepped out. He wore a navy blue suit so sharp it looked like it belonged in a magazine. His shoes were polished so brightly they reflected the morning light. He walked toward me slowly, studying my face. At first, I thought he might be someone from the city, asking homeless people to move along. It happened sometimes. But instead, he stopped directly in front of me. His voice was calm, almost cautious. "Excuse me," he said. I looked up, confused. "Yes." He stared at me carefully for several seconds. Then he asked the strangest question I had heard in years. "Are you Damien?" I blinked. "No," I said slowly, "my name is Addison." The man frowned slightly, clearly surprised. "You're not Damien Carter." "No." He studied my face again, almost like he was comparing it to something in his memory. Then he sighed. "I apologize," he said. "You look remarkably similar to someone we've been searching for." I shrugged. "That happens sometimes." He nodded politely and turned to leave. But just before he walked away, something strange happened. He paused. Then he looked back at me one more time. "What did you say your name was again?" "Addison." "Addison what?" "Addison Miller." The man's expression changed. His eyes widened slightly. "Did you say Miller?" "Yes." He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a thin folder. Inside were several papers and what looked like an old photograph. He held the photograph next to my face. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he whispered something that made my heart skip a beat. "My God." I shifted uncomfortably. "What?" He looked directly at me. "Mr. Miller," he said carefully, "do you have any relatives named Eleanor Carter?" The name struck me like a distant echo. Eleanor Carter. I hadn't heard that name in more than 40 years. "My aunt," I said slowly. "She disappeared when I was young." The man closed the folder gently. Then he said something that sounded impossible. "I'm an attorney representing the estate of Eleanor Carter." I stared at him. "I'm sorry, what?" He continued calmly. "She passed away 3 months ago." My throat tightened unexpectedly. Even though I hadn't seen her since childhood, hearing that she was gone felt strange. "She left a will," he continued. "And according to that will, her entire estate goes to her only living relative." He paused, then looked directly at me. "It's you." I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it sounded completely ridiculous. "Sir," I said, "I think you're mistaken. I'm homeless." He nodded. "Yes, I can see that." "Then how could someone leave me anything?" He opened the folder again. "Your aunt was the founder of a successful investment firm. Over the past 40 years, her assets grew substantially." I waited, still confused. Then he said the number. "The estate is valued at approximately $47 million. The world went silent. I felt like the ground had suddenly tilted beneath me. 47 million. Yes. I looked down at my torn jacket, my dirty shoes, the paper cup beside me filled with a few coins. "Are you serious?" He nodded. "We have been searching for you for weeks." I swallowed hard. And you found me here. He gave a small smile. Life has a strange sense of humor sometimes. Within the next few weeks, my life changed faster than I could process. The lawyers confirmed everything. DNA tests verified the family connection. The inheritance was real. $47 million. Suddenly, the man sleeping on a park bench became the owner of a fortune. But something strange happened during those first days of wealth. Instead of feeling joy, I felt overwhelming sadness. Because money had not arrived when I needed it most. It didn't save my marriage. It didn't prevent the loneliness of those months on the streets. And it certainly didn't erase the memories of people walking past me like I didn't exist. So I made a decision. A decision that shocked the lawyers. I bought a modest home, nothing extravagant. Then I created a foundation using most of the inheritance. A foundation dedicated to helping homeless people find housing, job training, and medical care. Because I knew something most wealthy people never experience. I knew exactly how it felt to be invisible. Today I'm still Addison, 63 years old. The money changed my circumstances. But it did not change the lesson life taught me on that park bench. And that lesson is simple. Life can take everything from you without warning. But it can also return blessings in the most unexpected ways. And when fortune finally finds you, the greatest wealth is not keeping it for yourself. It's using it to make sure someone else never has to sleep on a cold bench wondering if the world has forgotten their name.